Now, it's safe to say that a lot has changed with the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF or SCHD over the last year. For one, the ETF is trading back pretty close to all-time highs at around $78 per share as of right now. Not to mention the reconstitution happened and a ton of new holdings are now within this ETF, and a ton of stocks that were here before are no longer with us. The ETF also has a ton of brand new top holdings, things like Chevron, Texas Instruments, Lockheed Martin, PepsiCo, etc., etc. But the real question is this ETF still worth buying into, holding long term and using as a retirement vehicle, perhaps even allowing some dividend growth investors to retire early? Now, in this video, we're going to go over SCHD, explain what this ETF has to offer as of right now in around mid-2024. I'm also going to share with you exactly how many shares of this ETF I have as of right now, and I'll tell you one thing, I've been buying SCHD like crazy over the past few months. Then later on in the video, we are going to figure out how much an investor would need to invest into this ETF specifically in order to retire strictly off the dividend income alone. So if you would consider yourself a long-term dividend growth investor, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into this one. Real quick, for those that haven't already, make sure to go to the first link in my description and grab my new dividend investing ebook, where I share exactly how I went from $0 invested to now earning over $6,000 on a monthly basis and over $1 million invested in the markets. Along with the ebook, you're also going to receive my custom dividend tracker, where you can track your dividend progress on an ongoing basis and reach your dividend investing goals. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. So first things first, breaking down SCHD as it sits currently, like I was saying, it's trading in the $78 range, which is pretty close to all-time highs. And it feels like just yesterday that I was grabbing SCHD in the mid-60s, which was awesome. But just like this ETF has done historically, I truly do believe that over time this ETF is going to continue to move up and to the right because of the underlying methodology and basically because of the strategy that this ETF employs. Now, looking at the current dividend for SCHD, where it's trading at right now, it was definitely great grabbing SCHD months back in the mid-60s when the starting yield was north of 4%, but those days are long gone, at least for now. With where this ETF is trading currently, we're talking around a 3.5% yield trailing 12 months, so not horrible by any means. For a dividend growth ETF of this quality, I would still personally consider this on the higher yielding end, but still it's safe to say that when this ETF was yielding well above 4%, it was pretty awesome. Now, as far as SCHD's dividend growth goes, it's going to be very interesting to see what this next dividend looks like coming up here in June. Considering the last June dividend was 66 cents in 2023, and then back in 2022, the dividend was 70 cents. So from 2022 to 2023, the June dividend actually dropped 4 cents, but I think we have a good chance on having this ETF have a dividend increase, at least going off of last year's June dividend of 66 cents per share. Now, other than that, the dividend growth still has been on the up and up. Looking at the March dividend, we had a 61-cent dividend paid. The year before that, 60 cents, so a tiny increase in 2023 so far, and not even nearly as big as the previous year, March, 52 cents all the way up to 60 cents. But all in all, the dividend growth train still does continue, more or less, although there have been a few quarters year over year, which there have not been increases. But year over year in total, I have trust that SCHD is going to do just fine this year. Which brings me into my specific strategy and my specific portfolio. As you can see right here, I've been buying SCHD every single day the stock market's open basically. And as of right now, filming this video, I have 605 shares in total across all my portfolios. My average cost is somewhere around $72, $73 if I were to add all the portfolios up together. Now, with around 600 shares of SCHD, I'm definitely looking to get a nice sized dividend in June, which is again why I'm really looking forward to it, and of course why I'm very excited to see if there's going to be a dividend increase. But my bigger goal still stands: buy SCHD every single day, buy either 1, 2, or 3 shares, whatever my cash balance allows me to do every single trading day, and try to get this number from 605 to 1,000 shares as fast as possible, hopefully by the end of this year, even though we most likely will come up short because that's a big goal to achieve. And one of the main reasons on why I'm buying so much SCHD is exactly what we were just talking about a minute ago, the dividend growth rate, meaning that the 600 shares I have of SCHD right now are going to pay me a certain amount of dividends per year this year, but hopefully next year, the year after that, I'm going to get more and more income as time goes on. At least that's the goal here. But the bigger question still remains, how much would an investor have to invest into an ETF like SCHD or an ETF with similar stats in order to retire off the dividend income alone? Now, first of all, to figure out how much you're going to need as far as dividend income to retire, you're going to have to look at your budget and see how much you're spending, of course, in expenses altogether in a year. But I would say on average, if you're spending, let's say $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 per year, that's at least how much dividend income you're going to want to receive before you would, of course, quit your job, etc. Now, just plugging in some random numbers, a 20 $25,000 starting principal for this portfolio into SCHD and a $12,000 annual contribution on top of that. So $25K plus around $1,000 added to more SCHD every single month. On top of that, dividend reinvestment is going to be turned on. So a long while you're going to be reinvesting your dividends in more SCHD. And again, this is all just for an experiment to see what it looks like. Now, because SCHD is currently yielding around 3.5%, we have the initial annual yield at 3.5, expected annual dividend amount increase 8.5. This, of course, could be much lower or higher, but let's just go with something in the middle, 8.5. Expected annual share price appreciation, 3% in 30 years invested. So this is assuming you're a younger investor, relatively speaking. So now let's figure out how many years it would take for an investor, starting with $25,000 in SCHD and of course that $12,000 contribution per year. How many years would it take for the annual dividend income amount to surpass their expenses or something around that? So it looks like 10 years in, this portfolio would be at around $189,000 in principal and only around $11,000 per year in dividends. So although that's pretty impressive and although that shows the power of compounding that this portfolio has already achieved, it's not enough to retire off of. But by around 18, 19, 20 years in, we're at $44,000 in dividends, $52K in dividends, and then $62,000, $63,000 in dividends per year. Now, I would say by 21 years, just going off these stats, $75,000 in dividends, that's substantial. And by year number 22, $90,000, $108,000 by year number 23. By that point, I think this investor would probably be just fine and able to retire. Now, of course, if you were to double the principal to $50,000, the numbers are going to get a lot bigger, a lot faster. And it would only take about 17, 18, 19 years to reach the point to where an investor could probably thinking about retiring off the dividend income alone. Now, on the other hand, if an investor had a smaller budget to start with, let's say a $10,000 principal invested into SCHD, which year number one would only pay them around $354. But still, if they were to contribute $12,000 per year, let's say, it would take them somewhere around 19, 20, or 21 years in order to start thinking about being able to retire off the dividend income alone. So more or less, if an investor was to invest into a vehicle similar to that of SCHD, it wouldn't really matter exactly how much they invested starting. Obviously, it matters to a degree, but anywhere from say $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 starting principal, it's going to probably take around 15 to 21 years in order for the dividend income to surpass your expenses if your expenses are around say $50,000, $60,000, $70K per year. Now, this also brings up an interesting point that I've heard a lot of people discussing as of recently, the 4% rule, the 3% rule, withdrawing from your portfolio and or the argument versus using dividend income to live off of. Now, the argument is that over time, as you build a portfolio, let's say with the same exact example that we used, by year number 20, if you have $581,000, instead of trying to live off the dividend income, why not just withdraw a set amount of money and keep withdrawing the money until you die? And although that can definitely be a sound strategy for certain investors, I do personally think that the idea of living off of dividends in the future seems much more appealing because you get to hold on to your assets forever. Now, I get it, there's not much of a difference if you sell off shares of, let's say, SPY or get a dividend from SCHD. But for me personally, I like the idea of building a cash flowing machine that's going to surpass even my life and something that I can possibly even pass on to my kids in the future. Not to say that dividend investing is better than growth investing or vice versa, but for me personally, I love the idea of building up a portfolio like I have over the years of different dividend paying stocks and ETFs and getting paid cash flow every single month and or every single quarter, depending on the frequency of the payouts. So there we have it, an updated idea on how much an investor would need to spend over the years into an ETF like SCHD or something similar in order to retire completely free and clear off their dividend income. But now more importantly, I have a question for you guys down below. You guys saw that SCHD as of right now is my foundational position that I'm looking to build up a massive position to hopefully later on down the line live free and clear off the dividend. But I want to hear which stock or ETF you're using as of right now as a foundational position that you're buying consistently every day, every week, etc. Drop the ticker symbol in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.